Now the opening face-off. Let the doors be open, que l'on ouvre les portes.
Sorry.
De Manicouagan.
Honourable Member for Manicouagan. Mr. Speaker, Quebec's regions have not forgotten the softwood lumber issue. Families that lost jobs will never forget this. Our entrepreneurs who had to shut down will not forget either those that the Americans imposed billions of dollars in custom duties on. All of this because the federal government is unable of having the full legitimacy of our industry recognized. 10 years after Canada's capitulation in the form of an agreement that was harmful to Quebec, nothing has changed. The Liberals, like the Conservatives, have swept the recognition of Quebec's industry under the rug. The result is that next Wednesday, the battle begins anew, and it's once again our families back home that will pay the price. The solution is simple for Quebec, and it's free trade. That the federal government must have NAFTA complied with, period. The Honourable Member for Pontiac. Mr. Speaker, the Socio-Economic Forum of Pontiac and Maniwaki took place on the 3rd of October. It is undoubtedly true that the development of our rural regions is directly connected to the surrounding cities, but the inverse is also true. The urban National Capital Region benefits as much from economic development in the regions that surround them. In our regions, they need even a stronger voice in government. They support the Rural Secretariat, which was done away with by the former Harper government. Such a secretariat took into consideration the concerns of rural areas, which concerned socio-economic development. If we act in this way, we will find solutions that are adapted to their realities and better resolve problems, such as access to high-speed internet, economic development, and the exodus of young people, as well as tourism. I recognize the efforts made by our government, and I hope that we'll be able to continue work in this regard.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in the House today to salute the Chilliwack Bowls of Hope Society. Since 2005, each school day, the Society has provided soup and other hot lunch items, along with milk and fruit, to school children in need, free of charge. Today, with the support of the Chilliwack Community Correctional Centre, they feed over 670 children in 18 schools within the Chilliwack School District. That's over 10,000 fresh meals served every month. Last Friday, I toured the Bowls of Hope kitchen and then went out for a meal delivery run to several local schools. I witnessed firsthand the important work that they do. Whether it's the local harvest market donating fresh produce, the Merton Auto Group donating their vans, or service groups like the Rotary Club of Chilliwack-Fraser raising funds, thank you to all of the community partners, the staff, and the many volunteers who work together to make sure this program is such a success and for helping to ensure that no child in Chilliwack goes hungry.
Member for Mississauga East Cooksville. Robert.
House today to congratulate Ignat Kanev on his 90th birthday. Born in 1926 in Gorno, Albanovo, Bulgaria, and arrived in Canada in 1951. Mr. Kanev has transformed himself into a very successful philanthropist and builder. Just recently, Mr. Kanev achieved the Order of Ontario, the highest recognition in the province. Mr. Kanev has been and continues to be a strong voice for the Bulgarian community, and for the past 40 years has organized local charity events that have raised millions of dollars for Community Living Mississauga, an organization that supports individuals who have an intellectual disability. Mr. Kanev has been a strong community leader, a friend, and I want to take this time to wish him a very happy birthday, and here is hoping for many, many more.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, history was made on August 29th when Kevin Steen, better known as Kevin Owens, won the WWE Universal Championship. On behalf of my constituents and myself, I offer all my congratulations to this wrestler, who is a native of Marieville in my riding. He joins Quebec and Canadian legends like Pat Patterson, Maurice Mad Dog Vachon, Bret Hart, Chris Jericho, and of course his trainer, Jacques Rougeau. The Quebec history of wrestling historian Patrick Laborde said so well, he succeeded through perseverance and daring.
Spectacle of pro wrestling with the spectacle of politics. and let me just say, Monday Night Raw is now the Kevin Owens show, and my constituents and I couldn't be prouder that the best in the business comes from Marieville in my riding, and we wish him all the best as he continues to have a successful career. Fight Owens, fight. Merci, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable Member for Vaudreuil-Soulanges. Mr. Speaker, I want today to recognize the 2016 edition of the Rigaud Festival of Colors, which will take place from the 8th to the 10th of October. Every year, thanks to the hard work of Christiane Lévesque and her team, the city of Rigaud and its many volunteers, the festival is more and more popular. It shows off the region's colors and tell their story and opening up to the world. I invite all of the citizens of Vaudreuil-Soulanges to come and celebrate the mosaic of fall colors that this magnificent natural site provides with myself and my family. We'll be there on October the 8th to see the shows, to climb Mont Rigaud and taste the regional specialties, and also to discuss and share events with the greater community. Mr. Speaker, as the Mayor, Hans Grunwald, says so well, you can see it all in Rigaud.
You know the member for Regina Capel.
Mr. Speaker, a betrayal. That's how Saskatchewan Premier Brad Wall has described the Prime Minister's disgraceful carbon tax ultimatum issued at the very moment that Canada's premiers were already meeting to discuss climate change strategies. And now, while the provinces are working hard to cooperate and collaborate on strategies to fight climate change, the Prime Minister prefers to issue unilateral ultimatums in an area of clear provincial jurisdiction. As we've already seen, the Liberals' continued hostility towards the energy industry has already cost thousands of jobs across the country. In my own riding of Regina Capel, dozens of workers at Evraz Steel were laid off this August from their jobs manufacturing steel pipe for energy pipelines. Now thousands more jobs will be threatened across Saskatchewan and the country. Worse, the Prime Minister is promising that he will unilaterally impose a Saskatchewan-specific tax. Make no mistake, the Prime Minister's Ottawa Knows Best scheme of imposing a massive carbon tax is a cold-hearted attack on working families. I call on the member for Wascana to do the right thing. He should stand with his Premier, with his province, and quit the Liberal caucus over this betrayal.
The member for Brampton South.
Mr. Speaker, this coming Monday, when we're back in our ridings, we'll mark World Homeless Day. As you may know, October 10th is also World Mental Health Day. The link between these 2 days is sadly well established in the challenging, invisible experience of many living in and out shelters, those who live on the streets, and those living in their cars. To better understand the experiences of those facing these challenges, I hope we will all work together to support measures to ensure an adequate housing for all and better understanding of mental health. I applaud the work of Minister of Families, Children, Social Development, Health and Veterans Affairs are doing on these issues. But we all know we can, we must, and we will do more. I will be going back to Brampton South to work on this issue with partners at all levels, and I hope all members will do the same of these who are invisible in their society. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for St. Catharines.
Mr. Speaker, almost 23 years ago, we held our breath as a nation. It was the bottom of the ninth, and Joe Carter stepped up to the plate. The late Tom Cheek captured this historic moment perfectly when he remarked, "Touch 'em all, Joe." Though last night wasn't the World Series, it was do or die for the Blue Jays. Win and continue to the postseason, or lose and hit the golf course. Last night, I joined with friends and colleagues from all parties, united in our support for the Blue Jays.
Hear, hear.
With a Canadian, Russell Martin, behind the plate calling the game, the pitching staff delivered and forced the game into extra innings. Once again, we held our breath with each pitch. Edwin Encarnacion stepped to the plate in the 10th inning, and though we didn't get a bat flip, we saw him in the 11th inning. I'm sorry. We didn't get a bat flip, but we saw him take the parrot for a walk, adding to one of the greatest moments in this franchise's 40-year history. I think I can speak for everyone in this House when I say congratulations to the Blue Jays, who are now headed to renew their fierce rivalry with Texas. An entire nation is behind you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The The honourable member for Calgary-Nose Hill.
Mr. Speaker, corporate advocacy, when done right, is a great thing. It raises attention to issues, it spurs philanthropy, it makes people's lives better. Then there are times when it goes wrong. Instead of tweeting support for environmental action or something issues-based, TELUS issued a partisan tweet to the Prime Minister and Environment Minister supporting their tax announcement. The reality is, TELUS likely isn't going to be the one to pay for the increased cost to operate their business. Their customers likely are, by paying more for their products and services. And TELUS's employees will effectively experience a pay cut when this tax on everything hits them. Many TELUS customers who are out of work in Alberta may have a harder time trying to make payments for TELUS services. And all of these folks will find this very rich coming from a company that routinely lobbies the federal government for interventions in sustaining regulations that support their bottom line. So to TELUS management, the inconvenient truth is that your customers, your employees, my constituents, and all Canadians, for all of them, you've made the future a lot less friendly by blindly supporting this tax.
The honourable member for York Centre.
Last night was our moment. 162 games, and here we did lie. A one-game playoff versus Baltimore, the ultimate do or die. 50,000 fans at the Rogers Centre cheering on the team, each one of them believing in this postseason dream. Back and forth we went in this epic game. Jays fans across the country being driven insane. At first we had a lead, then sadly no more. All tied at 2-2 as the crowd continued to roar. And then opportunity raised its head in the 11th inning, men on first and third, a real shot at winning. Edwin, our hero, strode proudly to the plate. The swagger of a man with destiny had a date. One crack of the bat, and we all knew it was done. Not just a hit, but a monster home run. It's our moment. We're heading to Texas. We all did scream. Good luck to the Blue Jays, Canada's baseball team. Bravo.
Member for Châteauguay-Lacal.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. During this Women's History Month, I would like to pay homage to a remarkable woman from the Châteauguay region, the former Anna Laberge. Born in 1882 in Beauharnois, Anna was, first of all, a teacher. She continued then to serve the community around her as a midwife. She made her home in Châteauguay in 1930, where she remained dedicated to the area of health as a laboratory technician, despite her own state of health, which had been weakened by tuberculosis. Often described as an independent-minded woman, she was a nature lover with a preference for education. She indulged in archaeology and genealogy, and she financed charity missions even at her own expense. Mr. Speaker, Anna Laberge lived an inspiring life and lived to the age of 98. And thanks to her, Châteauguay is proud now to have named its hospital in her honor. Thank you.
In Middlesex, London.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise to recognize the International Day of the Girl, which will be coming up on October 11th. This year's theme is Girls Progress equals Girls Progress equals Goals Progress, and will focus on a call to join global efforts to end discrimination against girls. As a member of the Status of Women Committee and as the critic for families, children, and social development, I recognize the struggles that girls face in Canada and all over the world. The strength and determination of girls to break through boundaries and succeed, even when the odds are stacked against them, is an inspiration to us all. Mr. Speaker, as a mother of 2 girls of my own, I have seen firsthand the potential that every girl has and the need to support them through equal opportunities and empowerment. In 2011, the current leader of the official opposition led the international campaign to create the International Day of the Girl. And as Conservatives, we hope to continue her amazing work on this file.
Hear, hear.
So join me in celebrating the International Day of the Girl.
The member for Oakville North, Burlington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to welcome the Moose Hide campaign to Ottawa. They're holding their national gathering here to raise awareness about the role men can play in ending violence against Indigenous women and children. Our Standing Committee on the Status of Women is currently studying violence against young women and girls, and have heard how critical it is that we engage men and boys in our strategy to end gender-based violence. In my riding of Oakville North Burlington, Savis of Halton founded the Male Ally Network, or MAN Project, a network of men who are committed to ending violence against women and children. Owen Miller, a young hockey player from my riding, encouraged his team to wear purple jerseys for a month to show their support for Halton Women's Place. Along with groups like the Moose Hide Campaign, this is exactly the kind of leadership we need from men and boys.
The honourable member for Essex.
Mr. Speaker, October 11th is International Day of the Girl. It's a day to reflect on our shared commitment to ensuring a world free of discrimination for young women and girls. It is also an opportunity to celebrate the young leaders who are actively shaping our communities. Today, we are fortunate to have one of these incredible young people here on Parliament Hill. Jada Malad is a grade 7 student from St. John Vianney School in Windsor. A passionate activist and public speaker, she has led a letter-writing campaign urging the Prime Minister not to ratify the TPP. I'm so inspired by young leaders like Jada, who are engaged in our democracy and encourage their peers to be active citizens. As one of 88 women elected to this Parliament, I think about what it will take to achieve gender equity in this place. I'm convinced we must do more to encourage young women and girls to run for public office and overcome any barriers preventing them from following their dreams. It is my strong prediction that Jada will one day hold a seat in this House and will fight for all Canadians with the passion she is fighting for the TPP.
The honourable member for Peace River Westlawn.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have quietly introduced a bill that lays the groundwork for them to expand the size of their tax and spend government. C-24 is asking us to approve the future appointment of 3 mystery cabinet ministers. But worse yet, C-24 eliminates all regional development ministers and reminds Canadians that under this Liberal government, they no longer have any economic development ministers to represent and fight for their region's interests. No, Mr. Speaker. This Prime Minister is leaving all regional development in the hands of, wait for it, the Innovation Minister from the outskirts of Toronto. So now we have a Minister for Atlantic Canada from Mississauga, the Minister for Quebec Development from Mississauga, the Minister for Western Development from Mississauga. Mr. Speaker, Canadians deserve transparency and accountability from this government. C-24 achieves neither of these things. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member for London North Centre.
Mr. Speaker, it's an honor to rise and mark World Teachers' Day. This day of recognition is an initiative put forward by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO, and is held annually on October 5th. The purpose of this day is appreciating, assessing and improving the educators of the world. Le thème de cette année.
This year's theme is Valuing Teachers, Improving Their Status, and it obliges us to study and resolve problems that directly concern teachers, those individuals to whom we entrust the education of our children. This exercise is extremely important because too often these people who are devoted to their profession do not receive the same respect in Canada that their fellow teachers receive elsewhere in the world.
To the teachers in my community of London North Centre, I say thank you for all that you do. I also commend the more than 40 members of this Liberal caucus who are teachers. Mr. Speaker, we are a team committed.
Questions orales, oral questions. L'honorable député de Lac-Saint-Jean.
The honourable member for Lac-Saint-Jean.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are pessimistic about the Prime Minister's announcement, who wants to impose a carbon tax. And this is bad news for taxpayers who are already paying too much. Can the Prime Minister today, Mr. Speaker, guarantee or promise Canadians that their basket of groceries, that the cost of their housing, heating, gas will not increase because of this carbon tax. The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Canadians know that we need to grow the economy, create good jobs while protecting the environment at the same time. And that's exactly what we are announcing, and that is what we are working on and have been working on since we took power. I can also point out for the Honourable Member that our approach is neutral, and it will be up to the provinces to determine how to redistribute this money. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Yesterday on CBC, there was 11 cents increase on gas, an increase on heating oil. That's what was announced.
Carbon means more money taken out of Canadians' pocket. Right. The Prime Minister is trying to sugarcoat the reality by saying carbon pricing, but Canadians are not fooled. That's a new tax. This is bad news for Canadians. They already pay for their share of taxes. Will the Prime Minister guarantee Canadians today that the price of their groceries, gas or heating will not go up because of this new tax?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians need economic growth and good jobs at the same time as we protect the environment. That's exactly what this government is showing the leadership around doing that had been lacking for far too long from the previous government. What we're also guaranteeing is that this tax, this pricing price on carbon will be
Order. I know members are anxious to applaud the Prime Minister, but they should wait till he finishes his response. The Right Honourable the Prime Minister has 11 seconds.
We have guaranteed that this price on carbon will be revenue neutral for the federal government, and it will be up to the provinces to determine how they choose to reimburse their citizens for this progress on the environment and the economy.
The
Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, we agree with the Paris Agreement, but now we agree that it's a tax, Mr. Speaker. But we don't agree with charging a new tax on Canadians. The idea of imposing this kind of a tax, a liberal tax, is simply going increase the size of government. Why don't they simply leave this money in the people of Canada's pockets? Can the Prime Minister guarantee today, here in this House, that the cost of living will not go up because of this new tax on carbon? The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Canadians know that we are going to be creating economic growth by creating new jobs in many sectors across the country. We are going to give the provinces the ability to help those who are in need in their provinces, and just the way we have done so at the federal level, by reducing taxes, cutting taxes for the middle class, and by increasing them for the 1% wealthiest Canadians. That's what people expect of this government, and it's unfortunate that, once again, the members of the Conservative Party don't understand how to grow the economy, nor how to defend the environment.
For Carleton.
The Prime Minister accidentally told the truth that this is a tax, and he should listen to the Director General of the Windsor Mission that said, quote, people have actually come in with their hydro bills in one hand and said, if you can help me with food, then I will pay for some of this hydro bill before it gets cut off. The Liberal Green Energy Act has hammered Ontario's poor with skyrocketing electricity prices. Now the federal Liberal carbon tax will do the same to heat, gas, and grocery bills. Why is the Prime Minister forcing the poor to choose between heating their homes and feeding their families?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I find that a bit much coming from the party that voted against lowering taxes on the middle class by raising them on the wealthiest 1%. A party that continues to think it's better to send child benefit checks to millionaires than it is to increase those checks to the lowest income families. The fact is this government is focused on helping the middle class and those working so hard to join the middle class, and we will remain so despite the fear-mongering from the other side.
Mr. Speaker, that is exactly what Kathleen Wynne said about the Liberal Green Energy Act. Yet, while the poor have hit the food bank, Liberal insiders have hit the jackpot, including former Liberal Party President Mike Crowley, whose company got a $500 million green energy contract. Now, the federal Liberals have a similar regressive tax that will raise heat, gas, and grocery bills and give billionaire insiders green handouts to pay for it. Mr. Speaker, why is the Prime Minister taking from the have-nots to give to the have-yachts?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Again, Mr. Speaker, the members opposite are demonstrating how completely disconnected they are from the reality of Canadians. Canadians know that the way to build strong economy and good jobs for the middle class and those working hard to join it is by being smart about the environment and by protecting it. The fact is, making sure that we're able to help the most vulnerable, to grow the economy and to support Canadian families is at the heart of everything this government does and is at the heart of everything that party betrayed when it was in government.
The Honourable Member for Outremont. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Prime Minister was unable to deny the fact that he'd broken his promise to introduce new targets and that instead he'd adopted Stephen Harper's targets that in the past he called disastrous. Today, we'll be voting to ratify the Paris Agreement, but the government's motion is missing an aspect required under the agreement to establish economy-wide absolute emission reduction targets. Will the Prime Minister, yes or no, accept to add this essential aspect? Right Honourable the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the NDP always likes to talk about targets without any plans to achieve them, without talking about the kind of concrete action we need to protect the environment while creating economic growth at the same time. They like to talk about the environment, but they don't know how to create jobs for the middle class, to help companies to succeed in this new world. That's why we have taken concrete steps to show that Canada is serious when it comes to reducing emissions and serious about economic growth, which helps everyone, which others are unable to do.
Come on.
The Honourable Member for Outremont. There's nothing more concrete than targets and goals, and that's specifically what's required under the agreement, and that's what's missing in the Liberal proposal.
The government's motion to ratify the Paris Agreement does not mention anything about working with or consulting with Indigenous communities. If it's a mistake, let's fix it together. Will the Prime Minister accept our amendment to include working with Indigenous communities in our efforts to fight climate change?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, from the very beginning of this government's mandate, we have been working hand in hand with Indigenous communities, understanding the true reconciliation, the nation-to-nation partnership that is necessary with Indigenous peoples. Indeed, when we gathered for the first federal provincial meeting and territorial meeting in Ottawa, we included Indigenous leaders. We did the same again in Vancouver. We will work together with Indigenous leadership on all important files, especially around climate change. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
The Honourable Member Outremont.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal platform mentions working with provinces 35 times, and that approach was appealing to Canadians after a decade of the antagonistic Stephen Harper form of federalism. But without even sitting down with the provinces, the Liberal government adopted Stephen Harper's cuts to healthcare transfers. Before the election, whenever the Prime Minister was specifically asked about Harper's healthcare cuts, he said he wouldn't make any changes without first talking to the provinces. What happened to that promise?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Indeed, Mr. Speaker, as the member highlights, for 10 years, Mr. Harper, I can say it, did not engage with his provincial leadership, did not work with the provinces, and indeed, the lack of leadership from the federal government on the important issue of health care was alarming for provinces and for Canadians. That's why we are so pleased to have our health minister work closely with her counterparts in the provinces to make sure that we have a health system that responds to respects the Canada Health Act and responds to the needs of Canadians now and in the future.
Honourable Member for Outremont.
And say it, but he doesn't have to imitate it, Mr. Speaker.
The provinces and the territories were surprised to learn that the Prime Minister had refused to even respond to their request to sit down and discuss health transfers. Now they're making a simple request: postpone by a year Stephen Harper's cuts and keep the indexation at 6% for another year. Will the Prime Minister grant their request? Yes or no? The question is simple. We want a clear answer for once. The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Ministers of Health from across the country will be meeting in the weeks to come to talk about how we can improve and protect our healthcare system across the country. I think it's important for the ministers to have an opportunity to do their work. We believe in governing through a cabinet, and I have great trust in our Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister falsely promised the Canadian middle class a family tax cut. Earlier this week, he dropped a bombshell on Canadians by imposing a massive carbon tax on them. This tax grab has not only completely wiped out the Prime Minister's so-called middle-class tax cut, it will seriously impact low and middle-income Canadians through higher gas, heating, and electricity bills. So, to the Prime Minister, why the attack on working Canadians, and why the betrayal of his promise to lower taxes for Canadian families?
The Honourable Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It was great to be negotiating the Paris Agreement with the member opposite. I'm very excited to see how he's going to vote for it today. Mr. Speaker, in an interview with CP yesterday, the Conservative environment critic lauded the BC Liberal government for using a price on carbon pollution to cut income and other taxes. And then he said the problem is that other provinces aren't committed to acting responsibly. Well, I'm delighted that he's endorsed BC Liberal government's approach, and given that BC, Alberta, Ontario, and Quebec already have a price on carbon pollution, can he let us know what province he doesn't trust?
Member for Abbotsford.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Liberals don't trust any of the provinces and territories. The Prime Minister has no idea how badly this carbon tax will impact hardworking Canadians. Northerners, farmers, the unemployed, seniors on fixed incomes, they just can't afford this. And yet he still believes the only way to protect the environment is to increase taxes on these Canadians, the most vulnerable. So doesn't the Prime Minister realize that misguided tax increases actually hurt Canadian families who struggle to pay their bills every single month?
Honourable Minister of Social Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm delighted to take this opportunity to repeat some of the commitments kindly made by the delusion kindly made by my honourable member, to seniors' issues. We have signalled in the past few months how important seniors' issues are to this government. We've increased, for instance, the guaranteed income supplement by up to $950 per year, which is going to take 13,000 seniors out of poverty. We've also cancelled the change in the age of eligibility to old age security, which is going to prevent 100,000 seniors from falling into poverty, Mr. Speaker.
The Louis Saint-Laurent.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint-Laurent. Mr. Speaker, the worst things that seniors can receive, Canadians can receive, that all workers can receive, is a new tax. And that's exactly what the Prime Minister announced here in the House on Monday, when he was supposed to be working in conjunction with the provinces. 3 ministers, provincial ministers, slammed the door as they left the conference. Can the Prime Minister stand up and acknowledge that putting in place or inventing this new tax is the worst thing for Canadians? Why is he still taking money out of Canadians' pockets? The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Merci, Monsieur le...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government is determined to create a cleaner, innovative economy that reduces emissions and protects our environment while creating good-paying jobs for the middle class and for those who are working to make ends meet. After a decade of inaction, we are finally taking steps, the necessary steps, to protect our planet for our children and grandchildren. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint-Laurent. Once again, lovely words, but the reality is different. The path being taken by the government is the wrong one. For job creators, for SMEs, for people who know what it's like to create jobs, the worst thing for them is a new tax, Mr. Speaker, and that's exactly what the government's doing, and it's going down on the wrong track. Will the government acknowledge that when a person wants to create jobs, you don't create taxes? Have you ever seen that happen? No, we havenent. I think the honourable member knows that the Speaker doesn't answer questions during question period. I assume that he was putting that question to the Minister opposite. The Honourable Minister of the Environment. Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pricing on carbon pollution will help investments, clean investments. It will also encourage development and reduce emissions. In answer to the question, we listen to job creators. We listen to Loblaws, Canadian Tire, like large banks like Suncor, Enbridge, Shell, which support our decision to price carbon.
Mr. Speaker, my friend Susan lives in Guelph, Ontario. She's a divorced mom. She's got 2 kids, both are in university. And she has noticed that hydro's gone up, and she admits to me she's a bit cash-strapped right now. She knows she's got to get through the next 4 years while the girls are there in university. She wants to keep the house because they need it in order for them to go to school. But now she hears about some new taxes, and she is concerned. And she doesn't understand why this government doesn't realize what her situation is, because if they did, they would never raise her taxes. So my question for the minister is, what does she have to say to my friend Susan?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Speaker, I'd like to thank the honourable member for the question. And we do care for Canadians, Mr. Speaker. That's why the first thing that this government did was to reduce taxes for middle-class Canadians. 9 million Canadians today pay less taxes because of this government, Mr. Speaker. After that, we went on to introduce the Canada Child Benefit, which is helping Canadian families, Mr. Speaker. Then we went on to enhance the CPP, the Canada Pension Plan, Mr. Speaker, which is going to help Canadians now and in the future. That's the government who's working for middle-class family, and will continue to do that, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Milton.
That would make it
Speaker. Well, another friend of mine is Marie. She has 3 boys. She lives in... Are you kidding me? You're laughing? Are you kidding me? Okay, well... Can I go? So, my friend Marie has 3 boys.
It's not funny.
It's not funny. No. My friend Marie has 3 boys. Her husband just went on disability. They have a hard time making ends meet. She's trying to deal with it as best she can. The money's just not there. So now she hears about more taxes. And the reality is that that van has to be filled up to take the boys to hockey. So which one of the boys doesn't get to play hockey next year is the question. And she doesn't understand why this government doesn't realize she has a tough situation, because if they did, they wouldn't raise her taxes. What comfort do they have to give her?
Honourable Minister of Social Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the member for her passion, which enables me to give specific details on the Canadian Child Benefit, which is the most significant social policy innovation in a generation, which is going to take the families of 500,000 people in Canada, of whom 300,000 children, out of poverty, which will lead to the largest reduction in child poverty ever in our history, and which will lead to the lowest level of child poverty ever known in our nation. Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Abitibi, Bay James, Nunavik, Mr. Speaker. The Minister of Justice was at the time on the same side as the Assembly as First Nations when it came to fighting the systemic discrimination against First Nations children. What happened, Mr. Speaker, between October 19th and 20th? Because the minister is unrecognizable today. Instead of adopting the old, cruelly unacceptable Harper Plan, I want to give her an opportunity. Will her government honour the commitment to respect its moral and legal obligation to First Nations children? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, the government is resolved to examine services provided to families and children on reserve and to reform them in conjunction with First Nations. We know that the system is flawed, as illustrated in the report, the deplorable report produced in British Columbia. We must change the system by drawing from the comments gathered from young people and by integrating their ideas into all new approaches.
Bay.
Mr. Speaker, according to Cindy Blackstock, this government shortchanges First Nation students $130 million this year in foster care under Harper's plan. On education, the Prime Minister promised $2.6 billion over 4 years to First Nation students. An INAC document showed the minister was given the plan to follow through on this promise, but the Liberals once again decided to pull the football out from under First Nation children. They stretched that promise past the next election, shortchanging children $800 million. When it comes to priorities, why squeeze money from children suffering under this broken system?
Here, here. The Honourable Minister of Indigenous and Northern Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I think the member will recognize that that document was the day after we were sworn in. First Nations deserve the best start in life. This begins with properly funding education. That's why Budget 2016 provided $3.7 billion over 5 years for K-12 First Nations, which includes $824.1 million to implement First Nations-led transformation in education and funding 118 school-related infrastructure programs. We will work nation to nation to ensure the goals set by First Nations are achieved and First Nations-led initiatives are supported.
The Honourable Member for Kamloops, Thompson, Caribou.
Mr. Speaker, this government seems to have forgotten the reality for remote Indigenous rural communities. Their food comes in by boat, by plane, by ice road, and many of the communities are diesel power generators to keep the lights on. Communities that can least afford it are the ones that are going to be most impacted by this carbon tax. How can they justify raising the high cost of living that's already there for our rural, remote communities?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very pleased with the work that our government has done with Indigenous people, with Northern peoples. In fact, on Monday, I had the opportunity to hear representatives from the Inuit organization, as well as other Indigenous and Métis organizations. We are committed to working with our Northern peoples, with Indigenous peoples, because they are the most impacted by climate change. That's why we're very excited today that we're actually taking action, and I expect that the party opposite, who's so concerned about the plight of Indigenous and Northern people, will support the Paris Agreement in tonight's vote.
The Honourable Member for Kamloops, Thompson, Caribou.
Mr. Speaker, they talk about improving the lives of Indigenous Canadians, but their actions are telling a very different story. They don't realize that already food costs are double in the north. A loaf of bread, a liter of milk is double what we pay down here. So this new tax is going to find its way into everything they buy every day. So I guess I have a more simple question. Have they done their homework, and will they table the costs that it's going to create for every Indigenous community in this country?
The Honourable Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've heard very poignantly about the high costs of living in the north. In fact, just this week we were hearing from Indigenous leaders, from Inuit leaders, talking about how we need to tackle climate change, how we need to take action to protect their future, and we need to be mindful of the circumstances of the north. Our government has made the commitment. If they would like to read, the party opposite would like to read the Vancouver Declaration, which we're actually supporting tonight in tonight's vote, they will see it's very clear that we recognize the conditions of Indigenous people and Northern people. So once again, I hope that they will be supporting tonight's motion and voting in favor of the Paris Agreement and the Vancouver Declaration.
Honourable Member for Sarnia-Lambton.
Mr. Speaker, industries like Entropex in my riding are closing, and others like CF Industries are already cancelling their expansions as a result of the Ontario Liberal carbon tax. Nova Chemicals is considering moving a $2 billion polyethylene project to the Gulf Coast, where they don't have job-killing carbon taxes. This additional federal carbon tax and the uncertainty around it will keep new businesses from choosing to do business here. When will the Liberals stop taking jobs away from everyday Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member opposite for her question and for her passion in supporting business. If she really wants to support business, she should understand that the environment and the economy come together, and that's what we're doing. So actually, let's go back to job creators. Job creators like Royal Bank, Tembec, Loblaws, Desjardins, TELUS, Aluminum Association of Canada, as well as other businesses have said, supported our plan to put a price on pollution because they recognize that's how we're going to create good jobs, how we're going to foster innovation and how we're going to create the economy of the future.
The honourable member for Sarnia-Lambton.
Well, Mr. Speaker, jobs in my riding are being put at risk by this Liberal carbon tax. More than a third of families in my riding depend on jobs in the energy industry to put food on their table. Mr. Speaker, what does the Prime Minister have to say to hardworking mums and dads who are seeing their neighbours' jobs eliminated and thinking they're next?
The honourable Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, once again, I would like to emphasize that our government understands that the only way you grow the economy is if you can do it in a sustainable way. That is why we are moving forward on what Canadians expect, a climate plan, while at the same time positioning ourselves so we grow our economy, create clean jobs, and prepare ourselves for the future. But once again, don't listen to me. Listen to
Members know that they should listen and not make noise when someone is speaking, even if they say that. The Honourable Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. How about we listen, the party opposites listens to job creators they care so much about. Job creators are calling on Canada to put a price on carbon emissions, as most of the world's biggest economies are doing. It is the most economically effective way to reduce emissions, stimulate clean innovation, be critical to Canada's success in a changing global economy.
The honourable member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, less than 7 days from the deadline, there's still no softwood lumber agreement in sight. Yesterday, the Minister of International Trade still was unable to tell us if the government is working on a Plan B for the industry. While jobs are on the line, forestry workers want to know if the government is going to support them. Will the government support industry, for example, by offering an emergency loan guarantee program, yes or no? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of International Trade. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for her question. All of the options will be looked at, Mr. Speaker. For months, there has been unprecedented cooperation with producers, workers, the provinces, and the territories. And we will continue, Mr. Speaker, to continue to work closely with them. Even today, Mr. Speaker, the Minister is in Toronto for a meeting with her American counterpart, Michael Froman, and with representatives from across the country for the forestry sector.
Mr. Speaker, I've traveled the country, and everywhere I go, Canadians are speaking out against the TPP. After having her letters repeatedly ignored, today, 12-year-old Jada Malott has traveled from Windsor to bring her message right to the Prime Minister. She represents the generation that will have to live with the consequences of ratifying this bad deal. Lost jobs, higher drug costs, and ISDS rules that will threaten our environmental laws. Why does the Prime Minister refuse to listen to Canadians like Jada who don't want to pay for this bad deal?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for her question, and I salute the honourable member's young friend for her implication in Canadian politics. I would say, as regards the TPP, we have heard, we are consulting. We are still consulting as a government. We have heard a number of different opinions that vary from strong support to strong critique. When we are in a position to move forward on that file, we will ask this government, we will ask this House to ratify anything or approve anything that we do. But for the time being, Mr. Speaker, we have not yet made a decision on that.
The honourable member for Toronto Danforth.
This summer, I spent a lot of time talking to voters in local markets and at community activities across my riding. One of the concerns that came up quite often was advertising for unhealthy food and sugary drinks targeting children. I believe that Quebec already has a law to deal with this health issue. Can the Minister of Health please tell this House what her department is doing to end this practice? The Honourable Minister of Health. Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the Honourable Member from Toronto Danforth for the question. Our government is committed to supporting families and helping them make better nutritional choices. we will be introducing new restrictions on advertising for children, which targets unhealthy food and sugary drinks. This goes along with our commitment to improve labeling and to legislate to eliminate trans fats and reduce salt in processed foods. Thank you.
Calgary Nose Hill.
Mr. Speaker, the United Nations isn't referring Yazidi refugees to Canada, but this government is blindly relying on them to provide names for its refugee initiatives. At last count, only a few dozen Yazidis have come to Canada. Moreover, Operation Ezra has many Yazidi families identified and waiting to come to Canada, and the minister keeps promising them in phone calls that they will be processed, but none have been. It's our moral duty to help the Yazidi victims of genocide. Why is this government ignoring it?
Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I am certainly proud of what our government has achieved in admitting more than 30,000 Syrian refugees in the space of less than a year. In the terms of the Yazidis, my department will be conducting a mission to northern Iraq where they will both interview potential Syrian refugees and they will scope out the situation involving Yazidis. We are on that job, Mr. Speaker, and we certainly take it very seriously.
Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Mr. Speaker, out of those 30,000 refugees, 9 cases were Yazidis, and that is unacceptable. Mr. Speaker, Nadia Murad came to Canada to beg our government for help. She's called upon help for Yazidis that are also being discriminated against by UN agents in refugee camps in Greece and Turkey. Mr. Speaker, my question is for the Prime Minister. When he asked Nadia Murad for a photo opportunity in New York last week, what was it like to look into her eyes and that haunted look and tell her why he wasn't helping the Yazidi people?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, we do not know how many Yazidi refugees have come to Canada because when refugees come to Canada, we do not ask them their ethnicity or their religion. We do not discriminate by religion or ethnicity. What I do know is that we have admitted over 30,000 Syrian refugees, and we are taking concrete steps to pursue options in terms of the Yazidi refugees.
The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, last evening, a veteran who bravely fought for us, Mr. Claude Lalancette, came to see me. He was in tears and his situation is very dramatic. For 2 days, he has been leading a hunger strike. For 2 nights, he has been sleeping outside at the War Memorial here, and the second night here on Parliament Hill. Mr. Speaker, this situation concerns all members in this House. Mr. Speaker, what will the Prime Minister do immediately for Mr. Lalancette? Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Veterans Affairs.
I thank the honourable member for his question, and we take the health of members of the Canadian Forces and veterans very seriously, and this is at the top of our list. I cannot comment on specific cases. You understand that that's the case. But we do have a range of programs that are in place, and I would encourage any soldier that feels they need that program or support from Veterans Affairs to reach out. Thank you.
Member for Yorkton Melville.
Yeah, that's why he's here. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, veteran Claude Lalancette restarted his hunger strike on the steps of Parliament Hill. This veteran has served our country proudly and has had to resort to repeated hunger strikes to get help. After his first hunger strike, the Liberals promised him a committee of veterans, civilians, and experts. Then only days later, they reneged on that promise. In his own words, he feels misused, misled, stating they only used me for a photo op. Is the Prime Minister aware that 3 of his ministers made a promise to Mr. Lalancette that they had no intention of keeping?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, those ministers met with Mr. Lalancette in good faith, and they offered him the opportunity to witness, to testify before committee. That's what he has been offered, and he agreed to that. Now, there are issues that require extra work and extra diligence, and the department is involved. Hey.
Order. Members know the standing orders. require that we not interrupt other members when they're speaking. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary has the floor.
Those ministers offered him an opportunity to testify before committee. That has been negotiated with the committees involved, and it will happen in the near future.
Good, John.
Courtney Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals promised to end Harper's legal battles that discriminated against First Nations. It's been 7 years since the Supreme Court granted 5 new Challenger First Nations the right to catch and sell fish. But lawyers for this Minister of Justice continue to argue that these Aboriginal rights should be restricted and minimized. Now the hereditary chiefs have taken unprecedented action, dismissed government officials, and told the Prime Minister he is no longer welcome on their lands. Will the Liberals finally act and honour their promise to negotiate fairly?
Secretary for Fisheries.
Since the beginning, we wish to renew our relationship with Indigenous peoples. The Minister is aware of this file. The Minister has met with the First Nations on this subject, and we are determined, Mr. Speaker, to continue dialogue with First Nations. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Churchill Kiwatnik-Askey.
Mr. Speaker, another promise made, another promise broken. Over 3,000 mothers were denied sickness benefits under the Harper government. But during the election campaign, the Liberals promised they would drop all federal opposition to their class action lawsuit. Well, these women have waited and waited and waited, and nothing from this government. So instead of spending millions fighting them in court, when will this government give these women the benefits that they deserve?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm grateful to the member for giving me the opportunity to say how concerned we all members in this House are with the difficult circumstances in which some of our families find themselves. I will have an important announcement to make on that matter soon. I just want to repeat that in the campaign, our government has promised that we would be looking into EI special benefits, including maternity, parental, and compassionate care benefits.
Member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, brutal incarceration, torture, and executions are among the regular practices of the Chinese government. China now has its eyes on the UN's top peacekeeping job. They want to take control of UN peacekeeping and rewrite the rules of the game. Will the Prime Minister be supporting his favorite dictatorship bid to take control of UN peacekeeping and ultimately command of Canadian troops?
Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, in fact, it's because we're engaging with China that we have an opportunity to make progress about human rights in China. Every human being has the same dignity, and we need to be there to speak about universal human rights in China. And the Prime Minister never missed an opportunity to do that, so do I, because this is the only approach to make progress, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's hand-picked ambassador to the UN has made no secret that he's willing to play politics in order to gain a UN Security Council seat. The centerpiece to this horse trading, of course, is our 600 Canadian troops. Now, China wants to take control of all UN peacekeepers. China's abysmal human rights record and their saber-rattling in the South China Sea show that they are no partner for peace. So is a Security Council seat worth putting our troops under the command of the Chinese dictatorship?
Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
My colleague has that completely wrong, Mr. Speaker, because the seat at the Security Council is a tool for a goal. And the goal is to have Canada everywhere to fight for an inclusive growth and peace everywhere, and human rights everywhere. The seat at the United Security Council is the tool for this goal, and it's great for Canada to have such a goal under the leadership of this Prime Minister.
Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint Charles. Mr. Speaker, that answer is troubling and incredible, because it's hard to imagine that China, a state which, well, we know what violations they perpetrated, would be in charge of peacekeepers around the world. This could put at risk peacekeeping operations around the world, putting them under the control of the country with the worst human rights record in the world. Do the Liberals support China's candidature, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs. Mr. Speaker, the goal of Canada is to ensure that peacekeeping missions will work to protect civilians and local populations, and that's why we need to be part of them. For too long, Canada has been watching from the outside, and if we want to see these operations work better to protect local populations and world peace, Canada needs to be there on its own terms, under its own conditions, and that's what we will do with the Canadian Armed Forces. We're very determined to know that if we send our troops, it will be under conditions that correspond to our values and our conditions.
Mr. Speaker, recognising Canada's past contributions to peace and the dedication of the men and women who gave their lives to serve our country is a critical part of our heritage. Can the Minister of Canadian Heritage please give the House details on recently announced funding for a project honouring those who bravely fought in the Battle of Beaumont Hamel?
Minister of Canadian Heritage.
Thank you. I would like to thank my honourable colleague from Avalon for his question. This year we're commemorating the 100th anniversary of the Battle of Beaumont Hamel in France. Our government is committed to honouring the soldiers of the Royal Newfoundland Regiment killed in this brutal battle that happened in the First World War. And for this reason, we invested $1 million in the rooms, which is a beautiful museum, of course, in St. John's. Through online and on-site exhibitions, we will have the opportunity to learn more about the valor and the courage displayed by the young men of Newfoundland and Labrador in this.
The honourable member for York Simcoe.
After a year in office, words are no longer enough. Canadians are judging this government on results or their absence. Over 40,000 Canadians deployed to Afghanistan. 158 made the ultimate sacrifice, including 3 brave young men from my riding of York Simcoe. We have a solemn obligation to remember them and their service to our country. Last winter, the Veterans Affairs Minister denied cancelling plans for a memorial to those who served in the Afghanistan mission. Rest assured, he said, it will be done. It's been a year now. Where is the Afghan War Memorial?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary and the Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Thank you for the question. And Mr. Speaker, I'd like to let the members of this House know that just this morning at the Veterans Stakeholders meeting, the stakeholders were briefed about the options available for an Afghanistan monument. The discussions are underway, and we will move forward as quickly as possible.
The Honourable Member for Salaberry-sur-Loire. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, as we ratify the Paris Agreement, well, there are questions about Liberal efforts to help youth. The Prime Minister promised 5,000 green jobs for youth, but less than a third of those have been created. The Liberals also promised an EI contribution break for employers who hire youth, but that measure wasn't even in the budget. Meanwhile, the youth unemployment rate is still too high. My question is for the Minister of Youth, who is also the Prime Minister. What is his plan to create green jobs and lower youth unemployment?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the member for the question. It gives me an opportunity to indicate that the number of green jobs that occurred under the Canada Summer Jobs is well over 2,000 and counting as we do a survey, as well as providing significant opportunities for young people to gain post-secondary education by increasing the grants available, by working with them to enhance co-ops and work placements. Young people in Canada will finally have a chance to get into the workforce as we need them to.
Member for Scarborough Centre.
Mr. Speaker, gender-based violence remains a tragic reality for many women and girls in Canada. Statistics show that women continue to be at high risk of being victims of certain forms of violence. Experiencing violence has significant health and social impacts on the abused and their families, and remains a significant barrier to achieving gender equality. Mr. Speaker, could the Minister of Status of Women please tell us what action the government is taking to address this issue?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member from Scarborough Centre for her question and for her advocacy. Undeniably, the foundation of gender equality is the ability to live, grow, and thrive free from violence. And that's why this government takes gender-based violence so seriously, and why developing a coordinated federal gender-based violence strategy is so important. Over the summer, I met with colleagues and advocates and survivors like Paul Lacerte and his daughter Raven, who are the founders of Moosehide, who generously shared their ideas and experiences. Mr. Speaker, we cannot rest until all women and girls have the ability to succeed and thrive.
Honourable Member for Lambton, Kent, Middlesex.
Mr. Speaker, the Arbor Flour Mill is a small family business without a workplace accident in 197 years. The minister said she was working with the community and the owner. Mr. Speaker, there has been no contact with the owner or the community. The minister said small business has the right to compete and do well, but you can't compete and do well if you shut them down. So will the minister do her job, grant the exemption to the Federal Labour Code, and save the mill?
Honourable Minister of Employment and Labour.
Mr. Speaker, the goal of the Labour Department is to ensure that Canadians have a safe workplace and ensure that they all come home safe and sound. The goal was to ensure that all workplaces are safe. Arva Mill was inspected by a Labour Department inspector and found to be deficient in a number of areas. The mill, owners of the mill are working with inspectors and others to rectify the situation.
For Nunavut.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Merci, Monsieur le Président. My question is for the Minister of Indigenous and Northern Affairs. The government has kept their promise and launched a much-needed and long overdue national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women. The minister has appointed a commission to lead this inquiry, and although all members are extremely qualified, Inuit organizations have said they are concerned by the lack of Inuit representation. The minister has committed to include the Inuit perspective. Could she explain exactly how the Inuit perspective is going to be considered? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Indigenous and Northern Affairs.
I thank the member for the question and his advocacy on this. We have every confidence that the independent commissioners have the background, the characteristics and experience necessary to lead this inquiry and incorporate the distinct voices of Inuit peoples. One of the commissioners was raised in Igloolik, speaks fluent Inuktitut, and will bring a much important perspective to this commission. The Commission has the power to create regional advisory committees to support cultural differences and distinctions-based approaches, including an Inuit Advisory Committee.
I would like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of Leonard Red Kelly. There's more, and it's good. Winner of 8 Stanley Cups, who was elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame and was Member of Parliament from 1962 to 1965 for the riding of York West while playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I would also like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of Mr. Andrew Percy, Minister of Local Growth and the Northern Powerhouse of the United Kingdom. This concludes question period for today. Okay. Tabling of documents. The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Speaker, pursuant to the Standing Order 109, I have the honour to table in both official languages the government's response to the Special Committee on Pay Equities report entitled, "It's Time to Act."
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 36, Bracket 8, I have the honour to table in both official languages the government's response to two petitions.
Dépôt de projet de loi.
Introduction of government bills. Statements by ministers. Reports from interparliamentary delegations. The Honourable Member for Brome-Missisquoi.
L'article 34.1
Pursuant to Standing Order 38.1, I have the honour of tabling in the House in both official languages the report of the Canada Parliamentary Delegation of the Canada-France Interparliamentary Association respecting